So, stay standing or rise up out of your seats. It's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Black Hawk pilot, Elizabeth McCormick. There she is. Go wild woman, go wild woman. Woo!
Have you had those moments in your life where everything is going exactly right? If you've had those moments, say yes. Yeah, I had those moments. I was finishing flight school. I was flying that helicopter, a Black Hawk helicopter. I got to my first duty assignment, Fort Drum, New York. Yeah. Anyone been to Fort Drum, New York? Yeah. Snows every month but July. I knew I was in trouble when I got my house and they issued me a snowblower. Not a lawnmower, a snowblower. And I'm thinking, I don't need that. Fort Drum is 23 miles from the Canada border up in the Adirondack Mountains of upstate New York. Yeah. While I was there, it snowed 5 feet of snow on Mother's Day. For those of you that need help, that's this Sunday. Better be ready. That was the accumulation. The drifts were 7 to 8 feet high. Did I need a snowblower? Yeah. And it was cold. Go ahead and ask me, how cold was it? How cold was it? It was so cold. And the Army was so good to us. That's part of the joke. That when it was colder than -30, let that sink in for a second, colder than -30, they would let us do physical fitness inside. Yeah, it was cold. And I was there during the 1998 Great North American Ice Storm. Does anyone remember that ice storm? Yeah. 115 hours of freezing rain fell on upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, and big sections of Canada. 115 hours. I have to tell you, I live in Dallas now. We get a half an hour of freezing rain and the world shuts down. I'm not driving in that. There's no way. The ice fell 4 inches thick. Yeah, on the trees, houses, cars, roads. The ice was so thick that the snow plows and the chemicals they used to clear the roads, it wouldn't work. It was too thick, came down too fast, couldn't keep ahead of it. The ice also fell 4 inches thick on the, see, there's what the 4 inches thick did to the power lines. Those were the huge infrastructure power lines that carried the electrical grid to all the cities. They crumpled like they were made of paper under the weight of that ice. Over 5 million people were without power, some for up to 3 months. Can you imagine being without power for 3 months? And this storm happened in January. Did I mention it was cold? People were dying in this storm. FEMA was activated, but because of the condition of the roads, could not get in. In fact, the weather pattern looked like that. FEMA couldn't get in because of the condition of the roads. So the governor of New York called Fort Drum. You see, when they had built Fort Drum, they had buried the power lines. You know, just in case something happened with the Canadians. No, not really. But you'll sleep better now, right? We were fully self-sufficient during the storm, and we got the call from the governor. The governor needed 2 Black Hawks to fly FEMA. Well, congressmen and women, state congressmen and women, and journalists before the help started going. Think about that. Not the right way to go, is it? I was shocked. But I got the call, I was on the mission. Now, it's going to be a tricky mission. We'll be flying a Black Hawk in the clouds, and when we're in the clouds, well, what are clouds made of? Water, moisture, and it's below freezing, and what does that make? Ice. We're going to be flying a Black Hawk instrument mode in the clouds in icing. Anybody want to go? It's a real mission. We have a few daredevils here that said yes, but it's a real mission. We have to go. People were dying. So we get an updated weather briefing, and we're only going to be in the clouds, in the icing, the first 45 minutes of the 90-minute flight. So we'll be IFR, instrument mode, for the first 45 minutes, and then we'll be visual. And when we're not in the clouds, we're not in the icing, it's a safer flight mode. So it's an IFR to VFR flight mode. Anybody feeling better and want to go? Real mission. People were dying. We have to go. Now, you'll feel much better knowing that the Black Hawk has a sophisticated anti-icing, de-icing system. You see, it's so sophisticated, I can't describe the system. So here's what you need to know. In order for the anti-icing to prevent ice and the de-icing system to shed ice off, for those systems to work, I need 2 out of 2 engines at full operational power. Help me out. How many engines do I need? 2 engines at full operational power. Really important, right? So we get ready to go. I'm going to be in the right seat. I am a Chief Warrant Officer 2. I have not achieved my promotion to pilot in command yet, but our Chief Warrant Officer 2 in the left seat, Derek, he has. He's a pilot in command. Behind us are 2 crew chiefs to maintain the helicopter. Behind that, it's not like an airplane. Helicopters are not like airplanes. It's seats all the way across. If you want to get out, you have to open the door and get out to move around. There's a row of seats all the way across. And behind that row of seats in the Black Hawk is another row of seats, and they are back to back to each other. And behind that row of seats, back against the bulkhead wall, is shockingly another row of seats. And in that back row of seats is sitting a colonel from our brigade. Now, we don't know him, but he's our liaison to the governor. Now, let me ask you this. Who's in charge? Okay, this one's a trick question. When we're in the air, who's in charge? Let's get really, really clear. It's not me. It's the pilot in command is in charge when we're in the air. When we're on the ground, though, who's in charge? The colonel in the back's in charge. So we get ready to go. Derek, the pilot in command, decides I'm going to be flying the helicopter, and he's going to be talking and navigating, talking to air traffic control and navigating the helicopter. So it's decided I'm going to fly. So I'm on the controls flying, and we get our clearance, and we come up to a hover, and we have our power and our airspeed, and everything looks good. We have fuel for the mission. We get our clearance from air traffic control, and we pull up a whole lot of power. And all of a sudden, you can't see anything. It's like being on the inside of a cotton ball. I can't see anything. Wait. Yes, it was that scary. Yes, I see something. I see something. Ice building on the windshield, around the edges of the windshield and all the metal surfaces I can see. Ice building thicker, 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 right in front of my eyes. I have to tell you, the pucker factor was high. This one. You know how it is when you're stressed, though. The longer you're stressed, the more used to it you get, don't you? Yeah. It becomes a new normal for you. Yeah. And the more we're in the flight, the longer we're in it, the more we're used to it I get, and I start relaxing into the flight. We're okay. Everything's okay. And so I'm on the controls, and everything's good. And we get about 15 minutes into the flight, and I hear it. Master caution alarm. Looks like this. Whoop, can we put it up? When you get a chance, put it up. Master caution alarm. I got to tell you, it was a, shoot. Anybody think that's what we really said? Family friendly up here. Master caution alarm. This is bad. We're in the clouds, in the icing, with a colonel on board. Is this good? No, this is bad. I'm on the controls flying. Now, when something goes wrong with a helicopter, it's kind of like your cars. Sometimes you feel something. You get a shimmy, a shake, a shudder, some kind of indication something's wrong. And sometimes you hear something. You can hear a difference in the engine, a difference in the rotation of the rotor blades. Kind of like your cars, right? Yeah. Everything was responding normally. Everything sounded normal. I'm on the controls flying. So my job is to communicate to my pilot in command. Derek, we have a master caution alarm. Everything's responding normally. We're maintaining our altitude, our airspeed. Everything is looking good. We need to figure out what's wrong. Here is Derek, the pilot in command. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Ah! 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 Is this a good thing? This is bad. You ever have those moments in your life where someone else is panicking or something's happening and you think they're not going to help? So I turn and look at him and realize I have to do his job too. So I'm on the controls flying the helicopter. And I start doing his job. I start scanning the instrumentation. We have 4 feet of instrument panel. I have to scan. We have to figure out what's wrong. And I see it, one gauge in the middle, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. RPMs on engine 2. We're in the clouds and the icing. How many engines do I need? 2. How many do I have if one's going up and down, up and down, up and down? 1. Is this a good thing? No. This is bad. I'm on the controls flying. I turn and look at Derek, the pilot in command. Derek, we have a master caution alarm. We have fluctuating RPM on engine 2. Here's Derek. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Fluctuating RPM on engine 2. We need to take the engine offline. Now, I will tell you, in his defense, this was his first emergency procedure as pilot in command. That wasn't going to help any in that situation. So I'm flying the helicopter, and he wants to pull the engine off. And it's at that moment I realize that engine number 2 is over my head. Our helicopter's loud, really loud. Do you think I would hear the engine right over my head if the engine was going, woo-ha, woo-ha? It would sound like that. You think I'd hear that? It was steady. So I knew that the raw data from the engine went into a computer. The computer put it into the gauge, and we were okay. We had a computer malfunction. So I start communicating with Derek. Derek, we do have fluctuating RPM on engine number 2, but it's a computer malfunction. We're okay. We're maintaining our altitude and our airspeed. I think we should leave it alone. Do you think he heard me? No, here's Derek. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Fluctuating RPM on engine number 2. We need to take the engine offline. And he reaches up and puts his hand on the throttle. The lever to take the gas off the engine is up in the ceiling on the throttle, and he had his hand on that control. He pulls that throttle back. We lose our anti-icing, de-icing capability, and we crash an $18 million helicopter with a crew of 4 and a colonel on board. Yeah, so let me ask you, what would you do? Y'all are violent. She's like, I'd smack him. I'd hit him. Let me tell you, I speak for big HR conferences, and I'm shocked they say the same thing. I'd hit him. You're HR. You would think you know better. Here's the thing. There's no autopilot in the helicopter, just like your life, just like your business. When you take your hands off the controls to worry about someone else, you're creating a whole new set of problems. It's just like your life. You got to be on the controls. You're in the pilot seat of your life. So, I can't hit him. So here's what I did. I'm on the controls flying. Don't touch that throttle. You want to wait until we're out of the ice, out of the clouds. Be my guest, I can fly this helicopter on one engine, but not while we're in the icing in the clouds. You will not pull that throttle back while I am flying the helicopter. Look it up in the operator's manual. The operator's manual is 4 inches thick. It is really hard to get to in the front of the helicopter. He gets it out anyway. He sets it on his lap, and he starts flipping through to find the emergency procedure. I already knew. And I just keep flying. Flying. And we get out of the icing, out of the clouds. We can now safely fly on that one engine, and I am waiting for it. Silence. Nothing. We keep flying. And as we get into final approach to Albany, New York to support the governor, Derek clicks the radios and says, "Crew chief, would you please write up this aircraft for a signal data converter computer chip malfunction?" My response, "What a good idea." So glad you thought of that. We land, we write it up, we get the part in. And the colonel, after the aircraft's repaired and we can fly missions again, the colonel comes up to me. He says, "Chief Mack, we have a mission. You're going to go here, here, here." And I pull out my notepad. Yes, sir, whatever you say, sir. Derek, the pilot in command, to plan the mission. That's his job. The next mission, the same thing. The colonel comes up to me. "Chief Mack, you're going to go here, 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 here." Yes, sir, whatever you say, sir. Do you argue with the colonel? No. Yes, sir, whatever you say, sir. Derek, pilot in command, to plan the mission. All week long, same thing, day over day over day over day. Yes, sir, whatever you say, sir. At the end of the week, the colonel says, "Chief Mack, in my office." So we were visiting that airfield, so his office was a closet. So I went into the closet with him. That doesn't sound too good, does it? Said, "Yes, sir." He says, "Chief, I know you don't know me, but before I flew a desk," you see when they're so high up, it's called flying a desk. "So before I flew a desk, I used to fly Blackhawks too." "Oh, that is so cool, sir. I didn't know that." "Yeah." He says, "Yes. And I had the radio headset on and was listening in during the emergency procedure on the flight down." You ever have those moments where you think, "What did I say?" Right? You start second guessing and what did I say? I was like, "Yeah, you were, sir?" He says, "Yes. And if you hadn't stopped Derek when you did, I was about to unharness from my seat, knock down 2 rows of seats, crawl over the crew chiefs, crawl over a center console, and stop him myself. It is a good thing you stopped him first. You did a good job." And I have to tell you, my only thought in that moment was, "Oh, thank goodness, I am not getting court-martialed." I could have. Insubordination. Mutiny. I took over that helicopter. Impersonating a superior officer. He thought I was the pilot in command for a week. Yeah, could have gone there. Could have happened. And here's the thing. I would do it all over again today. Because it was the right thing to do. So the last lesson I'm going to leave you with is that we all have an ability, a capability, and a responsibility to lead from where we are. We can't wait to be asked, nominated, elected, promoted, or for someone else to do it first. The time for that's gone. It's gone. It's up to us to rise up and lead. And here's the thing, lead yourself first. Because the fact of the matter is, we're the hardest ones to lead, aren't we? And it is so exceptional when you lead yourself that people will follow. They will follow. I call it the fly method, right? The fly. Because fly really means to first lead yourself. And when you do that, yes, you will soar. It's been an honor and pleasure to be with you all today and to have served the United States of America. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you for flying with us, taking us on that journey with you.